Abo wajakumbi mi banyede Omanye mi penyekemba Omanye abano acho mi ni tete abro wonda ni butu lai ni jinu wa fenja seche ni iyen po keke ni Liberty Industries ni ikenpe ose po keke konu ne keke po keke okwe osajiana na ga no hu ni na kuteno ni josu fen senche ni le won yen siro matches ni group of companies ni ke pose pe lo ke shira pele anle acho mi ni tete abro ngene ko fo issue oba ba acho yen ni odomo
ta sino goma ta nyawo ta o ma de aba mena ba owolo ta sino goma ta nyawo ta o ma de aba
o ma bi se fi ako ngene na egbe wodomo legoniami ni acho legoniami ni kuku ni acho ami African movement Renaissance movement ame jegbe ame bu ame na akemi na ba fi gada we bi song mi na ba fi gada mu ni domo na mi na ba fi ni akeya bua ni wo man kramo gbejan to ni politics actually gbejan no na cho ami ake reformers abrada bi ame che pe bidi ye Ghanaian nyawa wa mitui
Mr. Chairman, it is needless to emphasize, I hold the view that any discussion of Ghana's 1992 constitution, and even more, any discussion aimed at putting forward prescriptions for the alteration of the current state of the 1992 constitution enjoins that care be taken, emphasize its preservation as the bedrock of the legal order of society. This is why I much prefer the word reform to change, as in my view, reform encapsulates the elements of retention and continuity that must underpin any such discussion. A Google search of the key phrase 1992 Constitution of Ghana throws up arguably the most all-encompassing single descriptive paragraph of our Constitution. The search describes the 1992 Constitution in the following words: the Constitution of Ghana is the supreme law of the Republic of Ghana. It was approved on the 28th of April 1992 through a national referendum after 92% support. It defines the fundamental political principles, establishes the structure, procedures, powers and duties of government, structures of the judiciary and legislature, and spelled out the fundamental human rights and duties of citizens, unquote. To my mind, our Constitution's greatest validation as the supreme law of the land is in the resounding 92% endorsement by the eligible voters at the time of its promulgation. The almost unanimous public acceptance gives it legitimacy as a social contract of the Ghanaian people. I must sound the caveat that I use the term social contract loosely and not in the same sense as John Locke used it in his political philosophy. With the resounding endorsement of the citizens of this country, the 1992 Constitution was birthed on the 8th of May 1992 by the assent of the then head of state and gazetted on the 15th of May 1992. Our Constitution, like the Christian God, is very jealous. And it quickly asserts itself in Article 3.3 A and B by prohibiting the use by violence or other unlawful means to suspend, overthrow, abrogate it in whole or in part, or attempting to do any such thing, and declare such an act high treason, upon which conviction is punishable by death. The same Constitution, however, in recognition of its need as the first law of the land to be a living and breathing instrument that is responsive to changing circumstances of society, provides in Article 289 for its amendment. It provides in Article 2891 that the Constitution may be amended directly or indirectly by an act of Parliament passed for the sole purpose of altering or amending the Constitution. Articles 290 and 291 institute two distinct regimes for altering and amending the Constitution. That is the entrenched and the unentrenched provisions of the 1992 Constitution. Both regimes, however, retain the need to go to the citizens in a referendum, emphasizing the sovereignty of the people. I submit with all due respect that the high purpose of the 1992 Constitution declared in its preamble, we the people of Ghana, in the exercise of our natural and inalienable rights to establish a framework of government which shall secure for ourselves and posterity the blessings of liberty, equality, opportunity, and prosperity. Cast a duty on each and every citizen to constantly examine our socio-political circumstances so as to discharge the civic duty to contribute to a truly functioning society.
And I'm here to speak on the issue of women, girls, and what their role should be in the situation of leadership, governance, democracy. I'm going to share a quote that I love. It says, in Africa there was a mother god before there was a father god. To our ancestors, the black woman was mother sky, mother earth, mother of everything. And she had the power to, through her spiritual essence, move freely throughout the universe. They believed that man could only reach the pinnacle of his spiritual being through woman. Through woman. Like our wise African ancestors, man must fight to his death to defend the woman's honor, because that is where his source of power and strength comes from. I will now remind my beloved black sisters that a positive, optimistic, loving woman strengthens and gives life to a man, but an antagonistic, negative, or pessimistic one can destroy him. The same applies to brothers in relationships with sisters. In spite of all this, it's the woman who finally determines what type of treatment she will receive and accept from a man. She is the one who can ultimately inspire him to be a real man, whatever that form should take, because he relates to woman in the role of a father, a brother, a lover, and yet he is also always her son. And this was the way that the ancients lived. Sophia Oboshi Doku, Mabel Dove Dampa, Rebecca Nadede Aite, Agnes Oforiwa Tego Pakupum, Hannah Kujo, Theodosia Salome Oko, Susanna Al-Hassan, Ama Ata Edu, Madame Esther Oklu, and all the known and unknown women and girls without whom our country would never have been and will presently not be. I greet you in the living and ancestral spaces. In 1979, Ghana adopted an affirmative action policy. The affirmative aspect about it is that it's supposed to increase women's population in government. The quota was that 40% of women in government should be women. 43 years this year, we have 14% of women in parliament. Approximately 300 girls are impregnated daily. Daily. That's a safe estimate of those who get counted. And about 10 teenagers per hour, if you break it down, some of them as young as 10 years old. Women in Africa make up about 70% of the people who carry out informal or petty trading across countries and borders. Whether there's war or not, they travel, they cross borders, they go and purchase things and come and provide and sell. They create and run small and growing businesses that feed you and I. They set up and run food processing and retailing points for local consumption. They work on our farms as mass labor. Most of them are owners of the market spaces that provide everything under the sun. They act as domestic carers across a wide range of our demographics. They do unpaid work as domestic carers for the sick, the old, and the newborns. And they cater for the home, society, for relationships, and for the children. And yet, in parliaments and in decision-making and policy-making spaces, these women form, across the entire continent of Africa, less than 25%. I'm going to share with you some findings that a study revealed when they spoke to women who are in parliament, because their understanding is that if you're a woman in parliament or in a high space, high role or office in government, you are powerful, right? I'm sure most of you want to occupy office in government. And they did a study and find out these things, which I'm going to share with you. 80% of women in parliament across Africa have experienced psychological violence in parliament. 80%. 67% have been subject to sexist behavior or remarks from their own colleagues. 42% have received death threats, rape threats, threats of beating or abduction, sometimes online, not in person. 40% have been sexually harassed, and 23% have actually endured it physically. most of these come from their own male colleagues. And this is from the people who are women parliamentarians themselves. Can you imagine those who work in the offices, what they will be going through?
Reform say no okay you on am ko gbona ba choma aka modin e chake dwemmo bona fi ne anyeni mini atwo ma amase jubade nche oba halangla bi po keke e ba halangla bi ni siromatis halangla bi ko ba ba chano
Ta sino goma ta nyenya wo ta omanye aba Mwana meba owolo Ta sino goma ta nyenya wo ta omanye aba
on bi se fen ko ni agbene wo pon se ke alegon ni ami ko ni agbene hu reform say ameni na me fi ojeme ni ameke social me
Ayo yo yo na yo yo Newa chokwa gacha mogo Itako akala moko Afoe wanya niwaba There is this journey we must all endeavor to embark on. A journey to save a broken land. A journey to save a suffocating people. A journey to save a dying land. It will be hard, we know. And the road will be muddy and rough, but we must get there. Heaven knows how we will get there. We know we will. So if you ever thought that we are back to finish the unfinished battle, tell them we have reincarnated to fight the battle, to crave freedom for the captured. Tell them we are made for eternal existence. Tell them we are spirits in the skins of men, mandated to fight this battle. Just this journey is as wide as the breadth of the world, woven with the fibers of treachery and mystery. This journey, a metaphor of the wilderness, little strength, yet so much expected. But we must not fall at the feet of the dream. We must find the soles of our feet on the keyboards of Kilimanjaro, so that if the night comes and the new sun refuses to rise, our sweat shall be counted among the many more sweats. There is a journey we all must endeavor to embark on.
I'm quite surprised that all these accolades are meant for me alone. But we are here today for a particular reason. Before I proceed, all protocols say, some of us, we believe we are revolutionary, so we don't do all the a bit of waste of time, but all protocols will say. I'm very happy to be here, and I'm very happy you are here too. Because as far as I'm concerned, this country is in big trouble. It's in a very, very big trouble. I'll probably touch on what the other speakers have spoken before, just a little bit of them. And I'll try very hard to stay within time because I can talk the whole day. KKD, the chairman, excuse me, spoke about something very profound about Martin Luther King. Yeah, Martin Luther, who brought the Reformation in the 16th century. And he said that because of Martin Luther King, we all belong to different churches today. Until then, it was just the Catholic Church. One man decided I was going to risk everything. And he put out his 95 theses. And for that reason, he was excommunicated from the Catholic Church. But he wasn't scared. He went ahead, got the Protestants, got all these mushrooming or whatever you call them. He's serving our peace in Ghana. We have a big job ahead. Trust me. And I pity you children, well not children, I pity you students. Because October 1987, I was enrolled here as a medical student. I am very familiar with this hall, and that's why I came here. And when we came to Legon, the school of admin had only 180 students, 60 students per class. I was speaking to the school administrator the other time, and he said now there are 13,000. And I said, but where is the infrastructure to accommodate 13,000? This is an absolute joke. Okay, so you don't care about quality. The same infrastructure that held 180 is essentially the same infrastructure that is holding 13,000. The whole school should be closed down. It's a disgrace. But this is just the tip of the iceberg. Professor Pochi, you saw over there, was my best friend from secondary school, Ghanaian secondary school. We're in the same class. So he did arts, I did science. And because of him, I got to know people like Maxwell. Because when he finished law and was doing his Makola, he came to stay with me at Kwalibu. So he was a big boy in the class. So his friends, you know, they all came to him for discussion. So I got to know most of them. I invited some of them today, but they didn't come because their hands are in the past. And we know them. And our revolution will succeed, you know. Just before the Moncada attack in Cuba in 1953, 26 July, Castro said something. Just before he said, in a few hours, you'll be victorious or defeated. But regardless of the outcome, this movement will triumph. We are seated here because of a reason. And the reason we are sitting here, we will triumph. I know that. I've never started anything that has failed. And this is not going to be an exception. It's even more than that. The whole providence is calling for a change in Ghana. And it's going to happen. Sometimes it's not the way you think, but it's going to happen. Nana Kwesi Chidakwa spoke about Martin Luther. And then after that, Maxwell came. And Maxwell spoke about constitutionalism. We have to be careful. And we have to do this. And we have to do that. But the fundamental thing in the Constitution, above all else, is that we the people, you know, when you look at the preamble, the last stage in the preamble is that we the people have enacted and adopted this Constitution for ourselves. Okay, we are the owner of the Constitution. And if you own a house, the house doesn't tell you how to treat it. You treat the house. It's your property. We own the Constitution. And we will do to the Constitution what we want to do to the Constitution. Nobody owns the Constitution. Not the government, not any party, not Nana Akufo-Addo, not John Mahama, not Jerry Rawlings who is there. We own, we adopted and enacted whatever it says. This is for ourselves. So if you say we don't want it, it's our property. And we have the right to say we don't want That's the prayer. And that's where, what is it? He went to eat a little bit, talking about immobilized power and mobilized power. We say that in physics, we call it potential energy and kinetic energy. All of you seated here in a gravitational or electromagnetic field. At that point where you are sitting, you have lots of energy. But that energy is only potential because it's not in motion. If you understand a bit of physics, I forgot your mind, but I remember this. As long as you are seated, your energy is zero. As long as you are seated, your energy is zero. You can have whatever power you think you do. As long as you are seated, that power is zero. You need to move. You need to develop kinetic energy. That's what he called mobilized power. All right. And now you have left mobilized power to the West society, the absolute West society. I don't believe Ghanaians are bad per se, because wherever we've gone outside Ghana, we do reasonably well. So intrinsically, I don't believe we are that bad. What is wrong is the rules that we have made. I mean, how can a country that traces its ancestry to 500-600 years ago even fight over citizenship? Because some people sat down and they even believe that somebody can take my Ghanaians from me. Now, you must be very sick in your head to think that way. That because of ages, I'm no longer in Ghana. Because you see, if I remain in Ghana, if Kwesi Jedaka remains in Ashanti, it's Ghanaian is from me. Because we are an ethnic country.
And if you would learn from the likes of Dr. Niamu and others like him, I mean, my dear brothers H. Kwesi Prempe, my dear brothers Ace and Kuma, they are all speaking. Not all of them will speak to what you want to hear, but they all speak, and you can pick something from every single one of them. My dear brothers Franklin Kujo, my dear brothers Kofi Bentil, they are all speaking. And if you will pick some wisdom from every one of them, you will find people of like mind, and you will start forming your collectives. And these collectives will gradually come together, and then we can choose an honest person to support to lead our nation.
Takun bi shida kle ahanye bi o kan fi mo baba na agbeye cheme ameka me be su sha me nto ogberu na ba chomo ni aba kra o ma jugba de che nu iba hin iha o ni Ghana ma hu aja aje shonshon na wa ko wo gbe ase shon ko oke o kon wo shi mo ke kon wo shi le ba yan mo ke mo wo no le yan me ku meji shishi me ku nwa cha no ni ke shi akra mo jiro aso mi ni tete abro
ye da bra fo me ye ni when I never want